One player made the most unbelievable mistake on the 72nd hole, while the other thought it made sense to hit his ball twice and keep his mouth shut. These are the absolute dumbest golf shots ever recorded in golf history. Here we have Patrick Reed, golf's self-proclaimed Captain America, who was paired with Tiger Woods at the 2018 Ryder Cup. Le Golf National was hostile territory, Europe was dominating, and the American dream was slipping away hole by hole. The pressure was suffocating. Every American shot felt like it carried the weight of continental pride, and Reed, never one to shy away from the spotlight, knew this was his moment to deliver something, anything, to stem the European tide. Reed stepped up to the 13th tee, a tricky par 4 with water creeping along the left side. Champions rise here. The crowd was practically vibrating with anticipation for another American mishap. And then, he swung. The moment the ball left the club face, Reed knew. That sinking feeling when it goes exactly where you didn't want it. Tracking left, dangerously close to the water, then it happened.
Fairway on the same hole.
The outburst explodes from Reed's mouth so loud that the broadcast microphones pick up every syllable. And, yeah, they also lost the match. Sometimes even Captain America needs a bleeping censor. Now there's making a mistake, and then there's what Bob Tway did. Third round of the Players' Championship 2005, and Tway is right where he wants to be. 7 under par, just 4 shots off the lead, cruising toward a weekend charge. TPC Sawgrass has been kind to him through 16 holes. Then he reaches the 17th, the Island Green. 137 yards of pure terror surrounded by water. But Tway's a seasoned pro, a former PGA Championship winner. He's seen this shot 1,000 times. The wind is howling at 25 miles per hour, gusting left to right across the green. Tricky, sure, but nothing he can't handle. He takes his stance, makes what feels like a solid swing, and watches his ball sail long into the water behind the green. Okay, 1 penalty stroke. No big deal. He walks to the drop zone, confident he can get this back on track. Second shot from the drop zone? Same result. Airmail. Splash. Now he's starting to feel it. The pressure creeping in. The crowd murmuring. Third attempt from the drop zone, he tries to dial it back, land it soft on the front edge. Perfect contact. But the ball hits the front of the green and spins backward into the drink. 4 balls in the water and a 5th shot from the drop zone. Same exact thing. Front edge, backspin, water. By the time he finally finds dry land on his 6th shot, he's still 40 feet from the hole. Then he 3-putts. 12. A 9 over par nightmare on a par 3. The highest score ever recorded on the 17th hole. Now here's Chris Kirk. 20 years on tour teach you when to play safe, but pride makes you swing anyway. The American Express 2024, and Kirk finds his ball sitting precariously among the rocks near the 17th green. Any sane golfer takes an unplayable lie, drops away from the rocks, and accepts bogey. But Kirk? He sees an opportunity for something special. The shot requires perfect precision. Catch it clean, avoid the stones, pop it out soft, and let it release toward the pin. So he sets up carefully, opens his wedge face, and makes his swing. The ball pops out and immediately ricochets off one of the rocks, just to end in the water hazard. Yeah, the rocks have the last laugh this time. But if you thought it couldn't get any worse, watch this next one where Rory McIlroy was in a greenside bunker on the par 3-6 at Le Golf National. He just tried a routine sand shot. The kind of shot tour pros execute thousands of times in practice. The bread-and-butter escape that separates weekend hackers from world-class players. Europe needed every point, and this should have been simple. Get out, maybe get close, and move on. McIlroy had faced tougher lies, trickier angles, more pressure-packed moments. This was supposed to be automatic. But golf had other plans. Rory caught the lip perfectly, and the ball ricocheted backward like a boomerang. The physics were flawless, the trajectory predictable, yet somehow completely shocking. Instead of finding safety on the putting surface, it took a wicked bounce and rolled straight into the water hazard that guarded the green, as if magnetically drawn to the worst possible outcome. From bunker to splash zone in one swing. It was absurd. A perfect snapshot of Europe's shaky start that Friday morning. The crowd's collective gasp could probably be heard back in Belfast. McIlroy and Olsen eventually lost 4-2, giving the Americans an early lead they desperately needed. But the Ryder Cup is all about momentum, and Europe bounced back to win comfortably. Still, that clip of Rory's ball bouncing into the water is a reminder. In golf, even the pros can get humiliated in a single shot. While some golfers worry about water, flagsticks, or even trees, Matt Wallace had to deal with something completely different. Something absolutely no one saw coming. It's the opening round at Cervo Golf Club in Italy, and Wallace is standing in the fairway on the par 4 12th hole. He's got a clean look at the green, perfect yardage, wind's not bad. What could go wrong? He takes his stance, makes a smooth swing, and strikes it pure. The ball launches beautifully, tracking straight toward the pin. But then something happens that you'd never see coming in a million rounds. No one sees his ball. Where did it go? Well, his ball rockets into a power line suspended over the fairway. Yes, an actual electrical wire hanging there like some invisible golf course booby trap. The ball deflects left toward a penalty area, and Wallace is probably thinking his round just went to hell. But wait, the rules official approaches with some interesting news. There's a local rule in effect, Model Local Rule E11, that covers exactly this bizarre scenario. The stroke doesn't count, no penalty. Wallace gets a complete do-over. So he sets up again, same spot, same club. This time, the ball flies clean under the power line and lands 5 feet from the hole. He drains the birdie putt and walks off with a smile. This next one goes back nearly 40 years. But here's why it made the list. The 1985 U.S. Open at Oakland Hills outside Detroit, and T.C. Chen from Taiwan was on the verge of making history as the first Asian golfer to win one of golf's biggest prizes. Heading into Sunday's final round, Chen led by 2 strokes. By the time he reached the 5th hole, his advantage had grown to 4 shots over Andy North. Victory was so close he could taste it. Then came the moment that would haunt him forever. Chen's approach shot found the thick rough short of the green. But the fluffy lie betrayed him. His wedge slid under the ball, barely advancing it, and as he followed through, the club struck the ball again at thigh height. A double hit. Blink and you'll miss it, but under the rules at the time, that meant a 2-stroke penalty. The golf ball must have thought it was getting a friendly tap on the shoulder, only to realize Chen's wedge was coming back for seconds. In the span of one swing, Chen managed to turn a coronation into a catastrophe. His 4-shot lead vanished in a single swing. The shot became known as the Chen Chip, and he became 2-Chip Chen. This next chapter is what happens when golf wants to watch you suffer. Jordan Spieth enters the 2024 FedEx Cup playoffs, sitting precariously at 48th in the standings. He needs a strong showing at the FedEx St. Jude Championship to advance to the BMW Championship and keep his season alive. But Spieth's season has been defined by one maddening problem: short game struggles, particularly when things get tricky around the greens. So, Spieth finds his ball in the thick rough, just yards from the pin, but with a bunker between him and salvation. It's a delicate shot, requiring perfect touch. First attempt, he catches it heavy, the ball barely clearing the rough and settling in thicker grass. Still short of the green, still not where it needs to be. Second attempt from the rough, another chunky contact. The ball advances but stays stubbornly in the rough, refusing to find the putting surface. What should have been a simple up and down turns into a grinding battle just to find the green. By week's end, he finishes T38, dropping to 54th in the standings. Season over. You know how wind changes everything, right? Well, this time, the wind made it tough for Joseph Bramlett at the 2024 Shriners Children's Open. Friday morning in Las Vegas, and Mother Nature is making chaos. Bramlett had opened with a beautiful 64 on Thursday, sitting just 3 shots off the lead. Now, he's fighting winds that make his pants flap like flags, trying to hold his ground while the desert tries to blow him off the course. He reaches the par 4 first hole and hits a solid approach to 10 feet. Perfect distance for birdie. Easy money on a calm day. But this isn't a calm day. The first putt drifts left in the wind. Miss. He adjusts on the next one, but it lips out. Miss. Now the pressure builds. Another push from close range. Miss. It's getting absurd. The ball circles the cup and refuses to drop. Miss. Finally, from 2 feet, it falls. 5 putts from 10 feet. What should have been a birdie turns into a triple bogey 7. It hurts just to watch. Even the steadiest players have their moments. For Xander Schauffele, Mr. Consistency himself, that moment came at the most unexpected time. Opening round of the 2024 Zozo Championship in Japan, and Schauffele is cruising. Even par through 8 holes, playing his typical mistake-free golf. The world number 2 had led the tour in bogey avoidance the previous season. Then he reaches the ninth hole, a 506-yard par 4, and launches his tee shot into the trees on the left. When he finds his ball, he stops dead in his track. It's wedged against a tree root, literally trapped in a crevasse between root and trunk. And that's when this man thinks he can pull a miracle. The ball moves exactly 1 inch. Still trapped. He tries again. Another futile swipe. The ball stays there. Finally, mercifully, he accepts reality and takes the unplayable lie. Sometimes players make the dumbest mistakes you can imagine. 121 yards out, facing one of golf's most notorious challenges, the island green at TPC Sawgrass. Water everywhere. Thousands of eyes fixed on him. Dustin Johnson, former world number 1, major champion, the guy who can absolutely crush it, steps up. He aims right at the pin, pulls out his wedge, takes his stance, and lets it fly. The shot looks perfect. Dead straight, flawless trajectory. The crowd leans in. This thing is tracking straight for the hole. Then, golf shows its twisted sense of humor. The ball flies beautifully through the air, lands on the green, and there you have it. It smacks the flagstick dead center. A full-on collision that sends the ball ricocheting like a pinball. And where does it go? Straight left, into the water. Johnson can't help but smile at the absurdity of it all. This guy hits it exactly where he's aiming, at the hole, and gets punished for being too accurate. The flagstick, which is supposed to help you see the target, becomes his enemy. From 121 yards out, what should have been a routine birdie chance turned into a double bogey, all because his precision was just a little too good this time, coming into this crazy one. So, golf is a right-handed game for Bud Cauley. Always has been, always should be. But desperation makes you try things that logic screams against. Last year, at the 2024 WM Phoenix Open, Cauley found himself in an impossible situation near the water. His ball sits in a spot where a right-handed swing is impossible. The hazard guards one side, forcing him into an awkward stance that offers no hope of solid contact. So, he flips his wedge over, takes a left-handed stance, and prepares to attempt something. He takes the swing, the ball pops up, and goes exactly where physics and common sense said it would. Straight into the water hazard he was trying to avoid. The lesson? Sometimes the impossible shot is impossible for a very good reason. But hey, at least he gave physics a good laugh that day. Final score, water hazard 1, left-handed desperation 0. Now you want to talk about cruel irony? This is where it starts. Tiger Woods stood in the 15th fairway at Augusta National in the second round of the 2013 Masters, perfectly positioned for greatness. He was tied for the lead, 87 yards from the pin, with a wedge in his hands and the tournament at his mercy. What came next was one of Tiger's purest wedge shots, and one of his unluckiest breaks. Perfect distance, perfect line, until it slammed into the flagstick and spun back into the water. Inches from brilliance, gone in a heartbeat. That's where it got messy. Tiger replayed from near his original spot, but later admitted he'd dropped 2 yards back for a better angle. By rule, he had to be as close as possible. Nobody noticed until a TV viewer called it in. The next day, officials hit him with a 2-stroke penalty. His 71 became a 73. A share of the lead became a chase. 4 strokes lost on that one hole, the same margin he lost the Masters by. And just like that, Tiger learned that sometimes the cruelest opponent isn't the course, the competition, or even your own swing. It's a telephone-wielding couch critic with eagle eyes and too much time on their hands. From a perfect wedge to a TV detective's finest hour, Tiger's Masters dreams got bounced around more than a pinball. When you're playing Rory McIlroy in match play, you need everything to go right. Lucas Herbert was about to learn this lesson the hard way. Round of 16 at Austin Country Club, and Herbert is hanging tough with one of the world's best players. The par 5 12th hole should be a scoring opportunity, a chance to steal a hole, maybe grab some momentum. Herbert finds his ball in an awkward spot. It's nestled right up against the wooden sleeper-style bulkhead that borders the green. Not ideal, but not impossible either. He's got a wedge in his hands and needs to pop it out delicately. The lie is tricky. The ball is sitting snugly against the wooden barrier, requiring perfect technique and a steady hand. One small mistake, and this could go sideways fast. Herbert sets up carefully, opens the face slightly, and takes his swing. But instead of catching the ball cleanly, he catches the heel of his wedge. The ball shoots off at a completely wrong angle, straight into the water hazard. Just like that, a potential birdie hole becomes a disaster. Herbert would eventually lose the match 2-1, despite playing some brilliant golf. But that one moment by the bulkhead? That's the kind of mistake that haunts you when you're facing greatness. Next up, we have this defending Masters champion. 5-shot lead with 9 holes to play, 8 holes away from becoming the youngest repeat champion in tournament history. Until he found the 12th hole at Augusta National. Golden Bell, they call it. A serene par 3 surrounded by azaleas, guarded by Rays Creek. At 155 yards, it looks almost innocent, but it's destroyed more Masters dreams than any hole on the course. Instead of the agreed-upon draw, Jordan Spieth decided to go for the flag with a fade, just a little aggressive shot to a tight pin position. What could go wrong? Everything. The shot came up short and right, found the front bank, and rolled back into Rays Creek. Splash. 1 penalty stroke, but still manageable. From the drop zone, about 80 yards out, Spieth had a simple wedge to the green, but he chunked it badly. The ball barely made it halfway to the green before finding the water again. Another splash, another penalty, another drop. By the time he finally found the putting surface, Spieth was hitting his 5th shot. He 2-putted for a quadruple bogey 7, watching his Masters defense evaporate in about 10 minutes. Up next, Bryson entered the 2020 Memorial Tournament as golf's newest sensation. Fresh off a victory in Detroit, he was preaching the gospel of bomb and gouge. Hit it as hard and far as possible, then figure out the rest later. The 15th hole at Muirfield Village was about to teach him a harsh lesson about the difference between confidence and arrogance. Standing on the tee of the par 5 15, DeChambeau saw opportunity. At 289 yards to the pin after his drive found the creek on the left side, he grabbed his 3-wood and decided to muscle it over everything. The water, the rough, physics itself. First attempt from the penalty area. Out of bounds, way out of bounds, sailing into someone's backyard. Did he learn his lesson? Of course not. Second attempt, same result. Another rocket into the great beyond. Third time's a charm? Finally, this shot stayed in bounds, though it settled in thick rough about 40 yards from the hole. But it got worse. On his 8th shot, DeChambeau found his ball up against a fence behind the green. He argued it was still in play, even asked for a second ruling, but both officials said the same. Out of bounds. 26 painful minutes later, he finally holed out for a quintuple bogey 10. From 1 over to 6 over, from safe on the cut line to packing his bags. All because of his own dumb decisions. Alright, we move to the next one. Nelly, world number 1, the face of women's golf, and a player known for her calm under pressure, suffered a meltdown at the 2024 KPMG Women's PGA Championship that no one saw coming. Let's rewind. Korda entered the year riding high, having finally claimed her first major championship. She looked unstoppable, the kind of player who could contend every single week. But heading into Sahalee, the cracks were already starting to show. 2 missed cuts in her last 2 starts had raised some eyebrows. Still, this was Nelly Korda. Surely, she'd bounce back on a stage as big as the Women's PGA, right? Not quite. Her first round was shaky but salvageable. A 3 over par 75 that kept her within reach of the cut line. But Friday? Friday was an entirely different story. From the moment she teed off, it was clear something was off. Bogeys piled up like a slow-moving train wreck, 8 in total by the time she reached the clubhouse. And the par 5 11th? A disastrous double bogey sealed her fate. The final scorecard? A jaw-dropping 81, leaving her at 9 over par and miles outside the cut line. Yes, you've made it to our top 3, and we're about to witness a collapse so epic, they still make documentaries about it decades later. Jean Van de Velde, a relatively unknown Frenchman, stood on the 18th tee with a 3-shot lead. Instead of playing it safe, Van de Velde pulled out his driver. Bold move. His tee shot sailed right but somehow avoided the water hazard. He was still in decent shape. Then came decision number 2. Rather than laying up, he went for the green with a 2-iron. The ball clanked off the grandstand, bounced backward, and ended up in nasty rough. His 3rd shot, splash, right into the Barry Burn water hazard. What followed became one of golf's most surreal images. Van de Velde taking off his shoes and socks, wading into the water, and actually considering hitting the ball from there. Nobody couldn't believe what they were seeing. He eventually took a drop, hit his 5th shot into a bunker, and needed to get up and down just to make a triple bogey 7 and force a playoff. Somehow, he sank a 6-footer for that triple bogey, and made it into a playoff with Paul Lawrie and Justin Leonard. Lawrie eventually won, while Van de Velde became synonymous with sporting collapse. Alright, we move to the next one, and we're stepping onto the hallowed grounds of Augusta National in 2016. The Masters is just getting underway, and South African star Ernie Els, nicknamed the Big Easy for his smooth, flowing swing, is about to experience a moment that was anything but easy. If you've ever had the yips while putting, you can relate to what happened next, but probably not this bad. Els was playing the first hole. After missing the green, he chipped to within 3 feet. A knee knocker, but nothing a 4-time major champion can't handle, right? What happened next was like watching a car crash in slow motion. His first putt missed, then the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth. By the time he finally got the ball in the hole, Els had taken 6 putts from 3 feet away. Yep, 6. He walked off with a 9 on a par 4, and the tournament had barely started. The crowd went silent. The commentators couldn't find words. Even Els looked like he'd seen a ghost. Later, he tried explaining it, saying he literally couldn't pull the putter back, like his body just froze. He said it felt like having snakes in his head. The yips had claimed another victim, but never so dramatically or painfully as this. And finally, the big number 1. The US Open is underway, and Bryson DeChambeau, the guy who bulked up and started smashing drives, is out to defend his title from the year before. Heading into the final round, Big Bryson wasn't just in the hunt, he was leading. His scientific approach and protein shake muscles were paying off big time. But sometimes, even the most scientific minds can't account for the chaos theory of golf. As DeChambeau made the turn to the back 9, something inexplicable happened. The golfer, who had mapped every inch of the course with precision instruments, suddenly couldn't find the fairway. The collapse was epic, 8 over par on the back 9 alone. But the real disaster struck on the 17th. His tee shot went somewhere no golf ball should ever end up, and his recovery only made things worse. Then came a shank so brutal, the commentators were left in stunned silence. 4 putts later, and he walked off with a quadruple bogey 8. Just like that, in the span of 9 holes, he had plummeted from leader to a tie for 26th place. His hopes of back-to-back US Open titles had evaporated in the San Diego sun. After the round, DeChambeau tried to explain away the collapse as just a series of bad breaks, suggesting it was simply golf and life, and that he'd lacked confidence in his swing. But to the rest of the golf world, it looked like one of the dumbest self-destruct sequences we'd ever seen at a major. Oh, and now that you're still with us, we have another great golf video for you to watch, right in the middle of the screen. Enjoy.